Welcome to the County Compass, Columbia County's guide to news, voices, and perspectives, hosted by County Manager Scott Johnson. This podcast is your behind-the-scenes look at what's happening in county government and across our community. We'll talk about the services, projects, and decisions that make Columbia County a great place to live. We're glad you're here. Thanks for listening to the County Compass. Now, here's Scott Johnson.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the County Compass. I'm Scott Johnson, your county manager. So glad to be back with you. And thank you for those that are continuing to listen and watch this podcast. I really appreciate it. And to my detractors, I've actually seen some of the stuff you put out there on social media. People have sent my way. I especially want to welcome you back because apparently you're watching and listening as well. And hopefully you'll get something out of this episode that will help you appreciate the county that you live in, that maybe you have questions about, whatever. So welcome to everybody. Welcome back to the County Compass. Last episode, we talked a little bit about growth in Columbia County and what growth really means for us. And I told you some stories about some things that have happened in the past. Today, we're going to talk about exactly why thousands of families are continuing to choose Columbia County as the ultimate spot to live, to work, to raise their family. There's something special about Columbia County. So today we're going to be talking about the whys, what got us to this point. And very specifically, I'm going to talk about some of the awards and some of the things that Columbia County has been able to accomplish, which is really nothing short of amazing, honestly, for a county our size to be able to function at the level that we do. So I want to start out by saying I recently had a meeting with my county manager's advisory board. And what that board is it's made up of 12 individuals from around the community, different backgrounds, different ages, different demographics. Really wanted a good cross-section of our community. So I have a 12-person county manager advisory board. We try to meet monthly, and I give them updates on what's going on in the county. And then they give me feedback. They advise me on things that they feel like we could do better as a county, or personally things that I could do better as your county manager. And when I was talking to the board members, we were talking about the podcast, and I said, "Does anybody have any ideas about a future episode?" And as we were talking about that and kind of throwing out some topics and ideas or whatever, what I realized was even my own advisory board. Those folks they're busy with everyday life, and even though they're on the inside of government, so to speak, they just really didn't have a whole lot of things to talk about, and they seem to be content. But in the conversation, it kind of went a little bit different direction. They just said, really honestly, we just don't probably realize how good we have it here in Columbia County. So one of the board members brought up a story. They said, think about how fast it is to get a stop sign replaced, for example. And this particular board member actually has connections with the sheriff's office, but he made the point. He said, if the sheriff's office calls in maybe a stop sign that's been run over, they're going to stay out there until the stop sign gets put back up. But they call Roads and Bridges, and Roads and Bridges responds almost immediately. Day, night, doesn't matter. We're going to talk about, our response. We keep talking about the storm and Helene and how bad that hit us. But we're going to continue to talk about that and talk about the county's response to that, because I think it shows how well the county performs. But he was saying, hey, a stop sign gets knocked down, we make a call, Roads and Bridges comes out. I was speaking to a group earlier in the week, and we were talking about 311 and how important 311 is for our community. That is a non-emergency number that you can call if you're in Columbia County to get routed to us. And you can report things like a dead animal on the side of the road that needs to be picked up. The one that I got that we were talking about most recently was somebody reported a pothole, and the pothole had gotten worse over time. And they called 311, and they said, on their way to work, hey, there's a pothole on so-and-so road. You guys need to take a look at that. So not only did the pothole get repaired, the pothole got repaired before the person that called it in got back that afternoon, got back home from work. So same day. How many governments are doing that? Maybe a lot. I don't know, but I think probably not. We are a bit of an anomaly when it comes to how interested we are to make sure that we're satisfying the needs and meeting the needs and even the desires, of the residents in Columbia County. So we're going to talk about that today, and we're going to be talking about some of the awards that we've been able to win and what makes Columbia County such a special place to live, kind of from the behind-the-scenes perspective. Some of the things that maybe we all take for granted, but you'll get to hear a little bit of that. So I want to say first, give you a disclaimer. I'm not hitting all the departments. So the things I talk about today are not all the awards that we've won. We're truly award-winning in almost every single department in Columbia County, which, again, is amazing. And people say, Scott, you really, do I have to sit here and listen to you brag for the next 30 minutes? Well, you don't have to. I wish you would, because it talks about you get to hear what's happening inside of our government. This is us being transparent. We're going to talk about all the things, but you need to know how your government works. So we've had an episode like that, but we want to talk about how well they do. So again, not every department, not hitting every single award, but I do want to hit some at the high level. So let's start with the foundation, kind of the highest level. Very proud to report for the last 26 straight years that our finance department, or Columbia County, or finance department on behalf of Columbia County, has earned the Government Finance Officers Association Certificate of Achievement for our financial reports. Now, that may not sound like a big deal to anybody out there, but think about this: 26 years of doing things perfectly. So perfectly that you win an award for it. Now, a lot of that will have to do with the leadership of our Financial Services Director and Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Leanne Reese. She has been here for those entire 26 years, been here a little bit longer than that. Hope to keep her a lot longer, although I think she's getting closer to retirement every day, as many of us are. But Ms. Reese has done an amazing job here in Columbia County, as the rest of our division directors do as well. But really, she's so smart and she's so good at what she does. It really sets us apart. But for 26 years in a row, she's been able to bring this home for us. And again, folks, this isn't paperwork. This is really your tax dollars being handled with total transparency. So you can see where every dollar was spent and how every dollar was accounted for. Speaking kind of a finance department, the financial division, they've also won the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award, again, recently. And then also our procurement department, which also falls in that same division, just brought home the National Achievement of Excellence for Procurement. I believe they did that in 24 and 25. I have no doubt they'll do it again in 26. So, again, this is talking about how we spend smarter, how we spend wiser, how we shop better, how we keep the bureaucracy low so we can keep our services high, and that's really important. And then all that kind of leads to our AAA bond rating. And we talk about AAA bond ratings a lot in Columbia County because it's something that we are very proud of. There are 3 rating agencies out there. They're independent rating agencies that actually rate municipal governments or county governments on how good their finances are. And the absolute top rating you can get is a AAA bond rating. And it goes from AAA to, and there's some pluses and minuses, but to AA to single A to triple B, all the way down, right? So not just an A, AAA. Not just a AAA from all 3 rating agencies. This is something that is rarely heard of in government. There are very few AAAs in the country, maybe only a couple more in Georgia. But we do that in Columbia County, and that's really a testament to our financial stuff. And just like your credit at home. I mean, AAA for us is like $850 credit for us personally, right? So it's credit agencies looking at everything, every aspect, scrutinizing all of our finances, and then coming up with, okay, yeah, you're worthy of getting this rating, which in our case is the highest that you can get. But the awards aren't just in the office. I mean, those were just a couple examples of some that are. But let's talk about some of the things that's happening out in the street. We've talked a lot about EMA because Helene was such a huge hit for Columbia County, but very proud to report that our Columbia County Emergency Management Agency was named the 2025 EMA of the Year by their state association. It's the first time ever for our county to ever have those accolades. So I'm very glad that we were recognized there. Obviously, that was after Hurricane Helene, and for their work in opening shelters and getting things back to normal, and the way we reported what was happening to our citizens, and clearing 800 plus miles of road, and really pulling in over $80 million, hopefully, when everything's said and done with the reimbursement, $80 million of FEMA reimbursement. And that's really due to our record keeping and how we responded. Chairman Duncan, he was interviewed one time about that recently, I think about that award, and he said, it's called pure teamwork, and it shows in everything we do here in Columbia County. And I think Chairman Duncan was right. It was definitely a result of that teamwork. So speaking of hurricane response, I just was notified recently that the county has also won the Georgia City County Management Association's Top Program Award for our response to Hurricane Helene. So we'll be receiving that award in the next couple of weeks. This is a big deal. We are, again, graded by and looked at by my peers, other cities and county managers around the state, and they thought this was worthy of recognition for one of their top program awards. So Columbia County will be bringing that one home too, adding it to the trophy case. Definitely, again, a team effort, not one person that's really behind this. It's a lot of folks. So speaking of keeping us safe, let's talk a little bit about law enforcement and fire protection. Now, in an earlier episode, I talked about constitutional officers and how the sheriff's office is completely independent from the Board of Commissioners from an elected perspective, but we work very closely with our sheriff here in Columbia County, and I don't think people realize, other than the fact that we have the low crime, they really don't realize how well our sheriff's office functions here in Columbia County. And I'm going to take that a step further and even say our district attorney's office and how well they work, all of our judges across the board, how well they work. I mean, it's really just, again, a team effort. But back to the sheriff's office. They have been CALEA accredited, and this is the accrediting agency for law enforcement in the country, so national accreditation agency. They have been accredited since 1996. Our sheriff's office was accredited when it wasn't the fashionable thing to do, right? When not everybody was getting it. But they went through the process to get this accreditation, which is the gold standard for professionalism in law enforcement nationwide. They've even earned a very rare award called the Triple Crown. And the Triple Crown is from the National Sheriff's Association, and it recognizes their simultaneous accreditation across law enforcement, corrections, so the jail aspect of that, 911 communication aspect of all that. But basically, the sheriff's office has all those things accredited. So they're a recipient of the Triple Crown Award. Again, very, very rare, certainly rare for a county our size. And Sheriff Clay Whittle has done an exceptional job as our sheriff and chief law enforcement officer here in Columbia County. Again, it starts at the top and it works its way down. But the entire agency is really second to none. So we talked about that piece. Let's just shift a little bit over to fire. Now, I don't think, and I may be wrong about this, and I'm sure I'll get corrected, we've probably got some individual awards in the fire department, but I don't know that we've ever gotten a Department of the Year plaque or award for our fire department. Don't even know if those are given out, but I know that they are doing a great job. So don't let the lack of the plaque fool you when it comes to our fire department. I will tell you that these men and women train to an exceptional level. We run one of the most respected recruit academies in the entire region. These firefighters, the men and women working in our fire department, they show up to obviously structure fires, but we also run EMS calls to subsidize and to help our ambulances and EMS in Columbia County. They're doing that on a regular basis. Many of them are certified as not only EMTs but paramedics or advanced EMTs, all the way up to paramedic. Just do an amazing job. And then they do a lot of community work as well. So they're definitely part of the same team that won that EMA Agency of the Year here in Columbia County. But again, Columbia County Fire Rescue, they deliver. And it's not just putting out fires. It's going to accidents. It's a dive team that is assisting other agencies. We have a drone team in our fire department that is assisting other agencies. Everything they do is top notch. And really, as a result of the hard work that they put in and all the training and all the things they put in, they have achieved the coveted ISO rating of 1. Now, we talk about that a lot in Columbia County because we're very proud of that. ISO is an insurance rating agency, an independent rating agency. Let me get it out, Scott. Independent rating agency that goes around and really grades fire departments and communities around the country. And achieving an ISO rating of 1 means that you've pretty much gotten near perfect scores in every area that they look at, which is staffing, training, equipment, response times. And then they look at water supplies and hydrants. So fire department has nothing to do with water supply and hydrants. That's water utility, which, by the way, another award-winning department. So many awards we could go into our water utility. Just an amazing job there. But then also to emergency communications, which takes us to our broadband department because we have our own broadband network and we have our own towers and we have our own radio system here in Columbia County. We're not relying on anybody else. So again, one award-winning agency is getting what they get as a result of another award-winning department and then another award-winning department. And we're able to put all of that stuff together to get that ISO rating of 1. So how elite is that, the ISO rating of 1? I'll tell you that according to the NFPA, this is the National Fire Prevention Association, there are over 30,000 fire departments in our country now. And that number could, depending on where you look, you can see different things and what's qualified as a fire department. But just for easy math, we're going to say that go with the NFPA's number and say that there are over 30,000 departments in the U.S. Out of those 30,000 departments that are all rated for an ISO rating, there are approximately 506 ISO 1s. That number's up a little bit because everybody's trying to get there, right? We're all striving to try to get to that top spot. But that puts us in the top 1% nationwide of fire departments. Your department right here in Columbia County, Georgia, top 1% in the entire nation when it comes to being rated from an outside agency that looks at everything and having almost near perfect scores. Folks, that doesn't happen by accident. That is very intentional. We are striving to make sure that we have that. So let's talk about the feel-good side of county life a little bit. We're going to talk about animal services. That's always a big one in Columbia County, and that's one of our major functions is to make sure that we take care of the animals, and if there are dangerous animals in our community, we have to take care of those as well. But the Columbia County Animal Services was named Animal Services Agency of the Year in 2024. Again, Agency of the Year in Georgia by the Georgia Animal Control Association. And it is the top honor in the state. Well, how do they get it? Well, we do a lot of things. The low-cost rabies clinics, school STEM programs, heartworm testing, Saturday adoption events. All those things come into play. But they're doing all that while they're maintaining a very clean, a very efficient, a very effective animal shelter that has really become it's like a destination for other animal services around the state. Hey, go to Columbia County and look at what they've done because we want to be that. And they've done all that while maintaining a 0% euthanasia rate for time and space. So let me say that again, folks. 0. We do not euthanize animals in Columbia County for time and space. There was a time that we did, unfortunately, that our shelters were so full and maybe inadequate, and really just by government policy. This is where bureaucracy comes into play, where maybe we weren't even full, but if the policy said that we euthanize an animal after we've had it for more than 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, that was the policy that we had. Well, we did away with that policy because that doesn't make any sense to me, and it didn't make sense to those that were even carrying it out. So we were able to do away with that, and we said, no more euthanasias for time and space. We need to figure out a way to adopt these animals, come up with programs. Let's do better in our community than just putting animals down just because they're not wanted anymore. So we stopped doing that. And a lot of that was under the leadership of Linda Glasscock, who is a retired animal services manager. She recently retired. She's been with us for a long, long time, but she actually received the Lifetime Achievement Award in Animal Services in 2025, right before her retirement. So much deserved award to an outstanding department. And if you are in the market for a fur baby and you want a dog or cat, or sometimes we have, I don't know, pigs and goats and other things that show up at the Animal Services. But, take a look at the website, take a visit out there, take a look, because what you're going to find is one of the most humane, progressive animal services operations in the entire state of Georgia. So if you're in the market, definitely come see us. So many other things to talk about. I wanted to hit on the library, and our system is we're fully autonomous now. So we are part of our own region. We're still with Pine, so we're still part of the state library board and region and all that stuff. But we've got all these great digital tools, and libraries are not just a place for books anymore. There's so many things that we do at our library, and our director and our new library manager or director of the library, Keisha Evans, is doing an outstanding job for the county. So visit one of our libraries and see what it's like. They're definitely becoming a hub for community connections. So what does all this mean if I move here? Well, it means that you're going to have the best of what we can provide. We've talked a lot about quality of life. We're gonna manage your property taxes well. We're going to show transparency in our finances. We're going to have your family protected by accredited law enforcement and a battle-tested emergency response team and an ISO 1 fire department. Your kids are going to have access to award-winning schools. That's not part of what we do, but then they're going to play in award-winning parks with a recreation department that is also accredited, that is award-winning as well. Your pets are going to get 5-star care. I mean, I could go on and on and on and on and on about the things we do in Columbia County, and yet a lot of times we kind of take that for granted. We're not just another suburb. We're not just another county. We are things. We are doing things in Columbia County, I think, that are making a difference to our quality of life, and I think that's important. So let's kind of talk about. I like to throw these stories in there, and I found this story, and I wanted to share it with you. It's a true story. Somebody that moved to Columbia County, and this particular person chronicled her experience about moving to Columbia County on Reddit. So I'm not familiar with Reddit. Y'all know I don't have social media, so I guess Reddit social media. I'm not sure, but I don't have it. But I found it, and I was able to go back and verify it. So I wanted to share this with you. So the story goes like this. This young professional and her husband, they moved to Columbia County from a neighboring county. I'm not going to say which one. It doesn't matter, because they really wanted the better schools and the low crime. They had heard about our sheriff's office and fire department, how well they were doing. So for the first couple of years, they posted nonstop. I can't believe how quiet it is here, how safe it is here. And these are in quotes. And, Columbia County is so night and day better than where we used to live. And the same person was doing the same post over and over and over, ending up with one. It was in all caps. We love this place, which is great. And then the post started to change. By year 3, she's writing on Reddit and other local forums, same person. My only complaint about Columbia County is just some of the snobbiest, most miserable people I've ever met. Well, I'm sure that was a result of a single incident, but you know what? Her perspective, she can report that however she wants to. And then she says, other people kind of chime in. You know how when you put something out there on social media, then everybody else wants to get it off their chest too? So other people are chiming in. Yeah, the traffic light timing adds at least 30 minutes to my commute every day. I find that difficult to believe, but maybe it's true. The library reconsideration requests are out of control. This county don't know what they're doing. Everyone's passive-aggressive polite, which I don't even know what passive-aggressive polite means, but somebody have to explain that one to me later. But that's what people were feeling, and that's what they were saying. One thread was literally titled, "Many locals don't seem to like living here," even though that same person admitted that Columbia County was way safer and quieter, quotation marks, than anywhere else in the region. So why? Why did this person go from moving here and wanting to be part of this community and the quality of life here and praising us to 3 years in being so bitter and so really, I guess, unhappy with living here. And I think it really all comes back to a common theme that we talked about in my county manager's advisory board meeting the other day, which is they had adapted. And that happens to all of us. It's like getting a big raise at work. If you get a big raise and you start making more money, you're like, great. If I could just make X amount of dollars, then all my bills would be paid, and I'd be so happy, right? Well, you're right. That's true until you adapt to the new lifestyle. And then once you adapt to that new lifestyle, you need more. And then once you adapt to that new level or that new lifestyle, you need more. And it's never ending. It never stops. So I think what happens is that people have adapted to living in Columbia County. They have become accustomed to picking up the phone and making a call and having a pothole filled in one day. Folks, that doesn't happen in every community. It doesn't happen everywhere. But we work hard to make sure that it happens in Columbia County. And I'm not making these things up. These stories that I'm telling you are true stories. The very thing that people wanted to come here for, like the fire protection and the transparent government and the zero euthanasia rate and all those, that's now a baseline. That now becomes the new norm. So you've given me all these things and I have certain expectations. So now I want more. Another analogy that I was thinking about the other day is, you get your son or your daughter a new car for their 16th birthday or whatever. Maybe it's not a new car. Maybe it's new to them, new to you car, right? And most kids are very appreciative of that. But I've heard stories where, kids were like, well, I didn't want that car. I wanted so-and-so car. My friend has this brand car, and I want that brand car too. And, not very appreciative. And again, that happens when you become very accustomed to finer things or nicer things. And I think it's maybe human nature to want more. But think about how snobby and snotty that attitude is. I know what my parents would have done. I would have been walking or riding a bicycle everywhere if I wasn't appreciative for the things that I have. And I can say that I've fallen into that trap too. I'm human, about wanting more and trying to get it to the next level. But the reality is, we just have to do better of at least recognizing, what we have. So back to this story. So the reminder came when one couple went back to visit their old neighborhood, and when they went in the neighborhood where they used to live, another county, adjoining county, there were potholes all over the road. Some of the neighbors were talking about the response of some of the emergency services. This particular community had an animal shelter that was turning animals away. You couldn't even take an animal to them. And so on the drive home, the same wife that started the Reddit thing, she said, remember when we thought that adding time to our commute was such a big deal? I now feel ridiculous about that, kind of looking at it. So they started keeping a screenshot of their old home's utility bill in their phone. And anytime one of them complained, talking about Columbia County not being perfect or whatever, they would say, pull up a screenshot, remember what we used to have. And that's what I would ask people to do, is take a screenshot of something that makes you proud to be a Columbia County resident. And when we fall short or you get upset or we make a mistake or whatever, go back and take a look at that. Take a look at that screenshot and say, yeah, maybe we don't have it so bad here. I can promise you we are truly the envy of a lot of people in the state and really in the nation. So very glad to live here. So with that, we're going to kind of wrap up this episode. But as promised, here's how we end our episodes. The most ridiculous thing I've heard lately. This is a good one. We talked a lot about animal services today and the great job they do and have done. And despite having that zero euthanasia rate that I talked about for time and space, people just don't believe that. So just this week, I got a call from a friend asking me if it was safe for them to take a stray to the shelter. And I said, well, yeah, I mean, not only can you take a stray to the shelter, if you'll call, we'll come pick the animal up for you. And he said, well, it's not mine, it's somebody else's that I know, and they're really reluctant to send this animal to the shelter And I said, why? What is it? And so my friend said, well, it's a purebred dog. It's a beautiful dog. And we heard the story about y'all putting that German Shepherd to sleep because it wasn't adopted in 30 days recently. It doesn't happen. Folks, not true. It's just not true. Not only is it not true, it's ridiculous. We have worked so hard to be the opposite of that and to not have that, but people just don't believe that. So, as a matter of fact, we go the extra mile to adopt animals out, and we haven't euthanized an animal for time and space in Columbia County in over 8 years. We're going on our 9th year of 0 euthanasias for time and space. It doesn't happen. 9 years. 0. It doesn't happen. So, well, and I want to throw this in there. We even had recently we had a dog that had been in our shelter for an entire year. So we made a big deal out of it and publicly put out there, hey, this dog's celebrating its 1-year anniversary at the shelter. Guess what? Got adopted the very next day, or maybe the same day. But the dog got adopted because we brought some light to that story, and we were able to get that dog adopted. But the dog stayed there a whole year. We're not going to euthanize an animal. And it doesn't matter whether it's a purebred German Shepherd or the biggest mutt that's running around nasty on the street. We're going to take the dog in. We're going to care for it humanely. We're going to clean it up. We're going to make it as comfortable as possible during its stay. And we're going to do everything we can do to find a new home for it and get it out to that new home. What we're not going to do is we're not going to put the dog down because we don't have room for it. Just doesn't happen in Columbia County. So anyway, I wanted to say that. Go take a look for yourself. You don't have to trust me. I know some of you don't. I'll stop short of recommending that you eat off the floors at the animal shelter, but I will tell you that you'll be pleasantly surprised if you go out there at how well that operation is run and not the ridiculousness that I just described. So I'll end by saying, folks, Columbia County is different, and that's why people want to move here. That's why we've had the growth that we've had, and that's why we continue to strive to get every award we can get and try to do the best we can for our residents. So make sure you tune in next time if you want to hear more real stories about what's going on in Columbia County. Until then, I'm glad to call Columbia County home, and I hope those of you that live here, I hope you are too. Take care.
This has been The County Compass, Columbia County's guide to news, voices, and perspectives. Thank you for listening. We appreciate you taking the time to stay informed about the issues, initiatives, and people impacting our community. And we sincerely hope today's conversation helps you better understand the work being done in Columbia County. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. As always, visit Columbia County's official website or social media channels for additional information. And until next time, thanks for tuning in.